Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Aura Podcast. We have a fantastic show, as usual, and have a great set of hosts today. Now, let's get started. About a couple of years ago, I was having a chat with my daughter, who's currently in high school, and she was mentioning, as she was doing remote school, I suggested, honey, why don't you, for the last semester of junior high, grade 8, I want you to go back in person and make some friends. And, that was really for the sake of, make some friends before you start high school, because high school is a scary place. There's so much bullying, there's so much bullies. I remember that was what I was scared of when I was in grade 8, looking to, towards high school. Bullying is part of, the high school experience. So I was pretty surprised for her to tell me that, Daddy, what are you talking about? Bullying doesn't exist. And she hadn't faced it for years. I'm like, well, hold on a second. Bullying's been around since humans been around, right? There's always been humans and bullying humans, right? Bully humans. So she apparently says there's no more bullying. It's so discouraged in schools, and got to a point where it's not a big factor, right? And there's a lot of examples she made. But before I get into talking about this a bit further, what do you guys, have you guys heard the same things? Have you guys seen like bullying, decrease over the last few years?
Bullying is rampant. Mm-hmm. I think in this particular situation, maybe because your daughter's a little bit younger, that might be a factor in determining whether it's prevalent or not. But I would say once you get into high school, my daughter didn't really have a lot of it happen to her, but she would come home with stories of bullying happening. Right. Now, this is before COVID, right? This is before COVID. And I would be very doubtful that it has changed much, because it may have obviously gone away for a little while because of COVID and online learning, but the rise of online social media has made this, I think, a terrible problem. And I think it continues to be a terrible problem for kids in a specific age range. I would think in more in high school, because that's when they become a lot more sophisticated. They become a lot more, how should I say, aggressive with their opinions. And I know time period when I grew up, we didn't have phones, we didn't have online social media, and I can't imagine being a child going to high school now, just on that issue alone. And in the workplace, look, as a workplace lawyer, I know for a fact it happens. I've had to deal with it to a certain extent with all of my clients. There are definitive controls in place. I think there can be a lot more control over that kind of behavior in a workplace as opposed to a school, because in schools, there's a lot more deference to the perpetrator because they are a child. And there are a lot more potential controls in place because the perpetrator is so much younger, right? So, but has it subsided? I don't think so.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Honestly, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that she doesn't have to endure bullying. As someone who endured it, I can tell you there aren't really advantages to it. You don't have to worry that a lack of bullying is going to make her weaker, softer, less able to deal with personal conflict. As someone who kind of dealt with that growing up, there weren't any advantages that I kind of carried into my adult life. It's not like I look back now and think like, hey, because I had a bully, because I had to deal with that, I'm a lot tougher.
Right.
No, like I've had to build up my self-esteem and confidence over years. And I had to do so in spite of bullying, not because of it.
Yeah.
Right. So the only long-lasting kind of impacts it had on me were kind of just a little bit of emotional trauma, and sort of some terrible memories.
Absolutely.
So, look, I would love to live in a world where bullying is non-existent. I would welcome that. I don't think it benefits kids in any way. I think dealing with adversity builds character. Bullying doesn't. If you deal with adversity growing up, a lot of challenges, maybe living in a low-income home, maybe having maybe physical challenges, anything that kind of like forces you to maybe step up and sort of get stronger to kind of overcome these issues. That's the kind of thing that builds character, I think. Bullying, not so much.
Yeah.
Bullying is...
Do you think bullying nowadays is different? Obviously, when we went, maybe Alex, when you went to high school or university, was social media was already probably out. It wasn't definitely a big thing when I was in university. So the only bullying was physical bullying. Two questions. Number one, is it a different type of bullying right now instead of physical bullying? It's more, bullying online. And number two, I'm sure, bullying from females is quite different than bullying from males. What do you think about that?
I completely agree. I mean, there was absolutely bullying in every school and in workplaces. It's a lot more subtle, but it's there. It's just online now. It's different. It's like a different platform. It's not in the schoolyard anymore. And it's amazing to hear that your daughter can go to school and not have to worry about that. But I've definitely seen it. And it's a lot more prevalent online now. I know that like 10 years ago, I remember one of my girlfriends who just went into teaching was like, we all of a sudden have to teach about social media, and like your everything that you do, that you put online will be there forever. Mm-hmm. And it will like haunt you if you do like the slightest, if you say the wrong thing. And we see that all the time now, but kids don't understand those kind of repercussions yet, and it's kind of terrifying to see like what comes up when there's no face behind your words. And I think that's where we have to shift our focus on, because
with online, it's easier, right, for me to tease someone, right? If I had to tease Patrick in front of his face, I would be worried about him being upset and physically attacking me or retaliating. Online, what's that saying, like keyboard assassins? I think it makes it easier, right? Like when I see posts on social media, especially like if it's like someone public, mm-hmm. like 80% of the responses are all negative, right? Like insulting the person posting it, right? And it could be for good intentions, but it's like you read all the comments, it's all negative, insulting, negative, right?
Yeah.
And people don't have any, conscious when it comes to that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Do you guys feel, online makes it easier for bullies to kind of run rampant and, without any repercussions?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you look at some of these forums that you're talking about, and there's supposedly responses by adults on the other side, and you're reading these responses and it's just bullying. And these are adults. These are people who are supposed to, quote unquote, know better. Sure. Right? Sure. And what do they say? Everybody's a tough guy behind a keyboard. Right? Maybe mild-mannered.
Even behind the horn, people, they're in their cars and like, they're giving you the finger. Yeah. A few times I got angry. I got out of the car, and then all of a sudden they're like,
yeah.
They change their tone when you confront them. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. We're sort of a weird way to say it, but we're kind of in the golden age of bullying, and I don't really want to like celebrate it like that, but it's sort of, we're at a point where we're getting celebrities to drop off social media with the amount of like bullying we're able to
cancel
do.
Culture, right?
Yeah, well, it's not just that. It's just like if we don't like something that they're in, actors quitting Star Wars because, fans just these orchestrated, organized bullying campaigns, and that's really where we're at now. That's the power of
the anti-bullies become the bully, right? Like, if they're like, hey, this person did this and they're standing up for something good, in actuality, they're actually, bullying them out of a scene, right?
Right.
Yeah, and that's where we're at with kind of social media. That's why it's sort of like, it's bullying 2.0, right? It's sort of...
I was going to ask you, Alex, what do you think, if I put you on the spot, what would be a different way of what females face, whether it be online or at the workplace or, at school? Our bullying was like teasing about appearance, the big, strong kids would bully, the weaker ones. When it came to the boys and guys, what type of bullying have you seen, when it came to females?
Yeah, a lot less physical, and it was hidden really well. So it was hard to catch at school. It was
personal
very,
attacks.
Very psychological, like stuff that it's just like etched in there.
Yeah. I saw it with my daughters, right? One of my daughters, water off a duck's back, quickly moves on. Another daughter, everything that, you know, someone says, it hurts her, right? She would have friends, and then they were no longer friends, and she would cry, right? And you know, people pick on other people for different reasons. I guess last point on this topic, the reason I suggested that perhaps it has been abolished or in schools or it's marginalized is there is a YouTuber named Darman. I don't know if you know or heard of him. He makes a lot of content. It's kind of going viral, where it's just like maybe 5, 10, 15-minute skits of different stuff, right? And there was you know, it's kind of like, you know, feel good kind of content, maybe a little bit corny, but, you know, feel good with good meaning. And I think a lot of schools for teaching, they show these videos. And there was one video about bullying that went so viral that made people think. And I don't know if she's been really lucky, but you know, according to her, according to that video that she saw, had really had an impact on positively on bullying.